Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we are doing my November reading vlog. So the latter half of October I started this thing where I did a reading vlog for all the books that I wasn't doing for other videos, and it gave me a chance to vlog, which I love doing, and talk about the books that I wouldn't have talked about otherwise in something besides like a wrap up. So I think I'm going to continue for the time being. I really enjoyed this style. So over on my Instagram I mentioned that I was struggling to read, which I still am. So yesterday I ended up posting a poll asking which book I should reread because I'm struggling and rereads always get me through. The poll was between these four books: Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, the first one, Chain of Gold, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and Cruel Prince. So first up we had A Court of Thorns and Roses at 12%. We had House of Earth and Blood at 25%. We had Cruel Prince at 25%. And we had Chain of Gold at 38%. Thank you for anybody who voted. And if you haven't already, go ahead and make sure you follow my Bookstagram so that you can be included in videos like this. But I think my solution is that I'm gonna read all of them. I definitely want to do a reread of the Last Hours trilogy because the third one is coming out in the beginning of next year, and I wanted to do a reread anyways. I have read this book officially twice, I think, but unofficially like 3 or 4 times where I've just like listened to the audiobook whenever I need something familiar to listen to. It's a 5-star every single time I read it. I'll probably do a little bit better of an annotation this reread, but I'm very excited to do my reread because I just love these characters. We then have Cruel Prince. I have reread this, I think I marked it in here. I think it's been about 2 times. I have reread it every year since I read it, but again, another favorite. I love this entire series. I think it's one of the best YA fantasies, and I love Jude. So I definitely am excited to do a reread of this. I don't know if I've reread it this year or not, but regardless, here we are. We then have Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, which I have read twice. Read it the first time, read it the second time when the second one came out. And it's not like my favorite, but there's something about her writing that just works for me when I'm in a reading slump. So even if I'm not like 100% loving it, I still like find things to grasp onto that I really love. And that get me through whatever reading slump or whatever I'm in. I haven't annotated this one and I don't quite know if I'm going to or not, but if I read this one, I'll read the second one as well. I would like to wait until the third one has like a potential date, but I can't even begin to imagine when that is. I wanted to reread the ACOTAR series, read the last one in the series because I haven't read that one yet, and then I wanted to read this, but I'm probably gonna read them together, which is fine because the second one doesn't connect to the ACOTAR series until later in the series. So that's that one. And then of course we have A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have read this 3 or 4 times. I have these dust jackets. They're just on top of the ugly dust jackets. I like this one okay. I think I gave it 3 stars the first time I read it. The second one is like one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely one of my favorite fantasy romance books of all time. And then I have read the third one. I've reread the series altogether maybe 2 or 3 times. I've only read the third one once because I cannot stand the third one. It's mega boring. But with this reread, because I'm gonna read the newest one, I need to actually read this like whole series beginning to end. So I'm gonna jump into one of those. My camera battery is flashing at me, so I'm gonna go make lunch and then we'll talk once I'm into one of these. I'm probably gonna start with Chain of Gold, but I guess it'll just be up to however I'm feeling. So let's get into the vlog. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you follow my Instagram, and all my socials and stuff are down below. I'm trying to get better about saying this. Okay, I'm gonna go make lunch. Bye. Hi friends, you are balanced very precariously on a stack of books, so we'll see how long this lasts. But I last night managed to get 120 pages through Chain of Gold, and as you can see, I have decided to annotate the book, and I'm having the best time. I annotated this the first time that I read it, but now reading it and annotating it more, I wouldn't necessarily like say my annotation style has changed since the last time I did it, but I'm definitely like more willing to write in my book and all that. Like, I have entire pages, entire scenes that are highlighted and stuff like that, because I'm just more willing to, I guess, connect with the text in that way. I know that sounds so pretentious, but it's just making it feel like it's a brand new story. And even though I know what's going to happen, I'm almost enjoying the fact that I know with hindsight that stuff is going to happen, because then I can go back and I can see the foreshadowing for things that are coming later in the series, and it makes me excited to read the second book. I would definitely say like this book is my favorite of the two, because there are some things that I love in the second one, but there's also some things I don't love. So basically, if you don't know, this follows the children of the main characters in The Infernal Devices. And so you are following Cordelia and James and Lucy predominantly, but you also are following like a lot of side characters. But in this one, it's a lot of just Cordelia's point of view with occasionally other people's points of view as well. Cordelia and James's rather. And in the beginning of the book, Cordelia moves to London, and she's good friends with Lucy. They've been friends for a long time. She's part of the Carstairs family, who obviously has a connection to Will's family. Jem is her uncle. Her father is currently being in prison and investigated for a murder or like an attack that happened on his clave. Is it conclave? Whatever. The institute that was, the group of shadow hunters at his institute were attacked during an investigation, and so he was arrested and under investigation for like possibly mishandling the situation. And so her brother Alistair and her mom Sonia are in London to try to like drum up support for him. And then Lucy and James are Will Herondale and Tessa Herondale's children, and this is like the early 1900s, and they're like obviously raised as shadow hunters, all of them were, but London doesn't really have too many demons, and they don't really know why. There hasn't been a lot of like demon attacks and stuff in their lifetime. Like, there's demons in other parts of the world, but not really in London for some reason. And so the beginning of the book, Cordelia moves to London, and she meets or furthers her relationship with Lucy, James, and James' other friends, who are all like tangentially related to him in some way. And then we also have Grace, who is James's girlfriend, moved to London as well, and she is the ward to Tatiana Blackthorne, who is Blackthorne, who is James's uncle's sister. They had a secret relationship that started when they were young, and so all of that has come to fruition. That's like where we start with this. And then now London has started getting demon attacks, and we don't know why. So not much has happened in the first 100 pages. I will say that's what I like about Cassandra Clare is like her books just keep getting bigger and bigger, but she's so good at writing character interactions and relationships that it never feels like you're missing something, or at least that's not how it feels for me. I know that people complained about this being quite slow and that the cast of characters is so big, because you are following Cordelia, Lucy, and James, but you also have all of James's friends. So you have Matthew Fairchild, you have Christopher, and you also have Thomas, and then you lightly occasionally get Anna's point of view, who is related to Christopher, I think. I'm just like, I'm loving it. We've just gotten to the part where the demon attacks take place. We have gotten revealed that James goes into the Shadow Realm because of his warlock roots through his mom. We've gotten some delightful scenes between Tessa and Will. But something that I love about this series in particular is a lot of her series revolve around the teenagers being very isolated at the Institute, and this has such a large cast of characters and side characters that like they go to balls and stuff where there's a lot of people, or they go to picnics where there's a lot of people, and I love that because we're not used to seeing like a full formed world, I guess. Like we're not used to seeing Shadowhunters outside of our main cast, so it makes it feel more fleshed out in a weird way, I guess. Like, not to say that the other worlds or the other cast of characters or whatever aren't fleshed out in the other series, but it's just a change of pace that I really enjoy. So we're gonna get back in. Lucy has discovered that the boy that she meets in the prologue is the ghost, Jesse Blackthorn, who is Tatiana's actual son. So I'm gonna get back into it and then we're gonna talk. So probably what I'm gonna do is finish this, start Cruel Prince. So I still want to read the other books that I have, so I'll probably start Cruel Prince. Depending on where we're at in the weeks, I do need to read Ringmaster and Rush for the final Brianna Hale backlist read-along, and I do want to annotate them, but I'll be doing them for a separate video. Like, I'll be doing a video just for the two of them. And then I'll probably get into A Court of Thorns and Roses, and then I will get into Crescent City, and then I will continue the series. So I will then read the second in this series. I will then probably just finish out the Cruel Prince series, and then I will finish out the ACOTAR series, and then I will finish the House of Earth and Blood series. So basically reading the first book in each series first, and then going back and reading the series. I don't know if that's all going to happen in November. I have finished the majority of the videos that I need to post up until the end of the year. So I don't really have a whole lot of reading going on. I have 2 vlogs that I need to do, 5 books for each of those vlogs. But other than that, like, they're not being posted until later in December. So like my reading schedule is entirely open, and I wanted to do some rereads this year because I haven't really done a whole lot of rereads. So like my reading schedule is wide open. I don't have any library books out. I don't have anything that I need to read. So I'm prepared to reread these series, and I'm more than happy to. I might read some things along the way. Like I started this book, this fantasy romance, and I do want to get back to it eventually because I was enjoying it and I've heard it gets a lot better. I wasn't very far in, maybe a couple percent in, but I definitely am going to be focusing on rereading these series. So that is all to say that I'm going to get further into this, update you probably when I have feelings about it, and then we'll go from there. Today I started my period, and my mom is coming over, but I kind of just want to lay in bed and cry, like, not an exaggeration. So she's gonna be here. It is about 3 o'clock now. She's gonna get here around 5. So until then, I'm probably gonna lay in bed and read. I might just watch some YouTube videos. It's unclear how this is gonna go. But I do have some things that on my to-do list that I need to do. So like I had definitely, let me show you my to-do list. So this is just like a standard like planner. It's literally this, like I'm pretty sure I got it for work and I just never used it for work. I literally do this, like I don't do anything special. I recently started doing this. This is actually the first week that I've used this planner like this. But I started doing a to-do list, and literally I wrote drink water, because just having that there to check off, like I will do. But today's to-do list is mostly just reading, like finish the ritual, which I did. I don't know if I'm gonna get 25% of the way through things I want, like these 3. I don't obviously need to get 25% of the way through the Predator. I'm gonna try to get 25% of the way through these things, but that's really like it as far as my to-do list for the day. I do need to get 25% of the way through those, but I don't really like, I don't know. So I'm gonna go back to reading Chain of Gold probably, and we'll talk later. Hi friends, please excuse the sound of my dryer going in the background. I'm not gonna move. I am halfway through Chain of Gold. Still loving it as anticipated. Still annotating it quite a bit. So we've had some developments. We have had more killings. People have been poisoned. They just went to Emmanuel Gast, a warlock's house, and found him dead. We've explored a little bit more of Lucy's powers with ghosts, and like I'm just loving it. Like I'm so into the idea of Lucy and Matthew, it's ridiculous. Like I love brother's best friend, the brother's best friend trope, and I just need it to happen. Like as cool as like another Will, Jem, and Tessa situation is, which I really hope she doesn't go that way, would be, or a polyamorous relationship would be, I'm really into Lucy and Matthew because he's just so protective of her and it's so sweet. Cordelia is talking to her brother Alistair, and he was like, which one of the men in the group, like which one of them has caught your eye? Because if it's the Fairchild, who is Matthew, he's never gonna love you more than he loves alcohol, which is just like something that I'm really hoping that she addresses in the 3rd book, because like it's not really talked about in the 1st and 2nd book. Like it's kind of acknowledged, but they never really like do anything, and I'm really hoping that that's something that they tackle with him if he ends up with somebody. But I'm just loving it. I love Cordelia and James, and I'm catching so much in James's point of view about his feelings for Cordelia that I never caught the first 2 times that I read it, or like the thousands of other times I've listened to the audiobook. But I think that this is really like one of the best romances that she has crafted. Like I don't really like Jason and Clary, like they're the OG obviously, and so like they're great and all, but Will and Tessa are like my favorite for sure, 100%, and Jem, love them, love the dynamic of the 3, and the relationships in the Dark Artery Seas are great, like the polyamorous relationship, and then the main relationship, like they're good, but I just feel everything for this one. Like every time they interact, every time they have a moment together, every time they think about each other, it's just so cute and I love it a lot. And the plot I think is interesting because, like I said, we have never really had like a full cast with side characters and all that, and so I'm loving the interaction of the Shadowhunter world and the idea of like demons showing up and someone has made it so that lesser demons stop showing up to make room for greater demons is very fascinating, and the connection that James has to greater demons is interesting. So like altogether I'm just really loving it. Like it just feels so good. It's like the Infernal Devices but like fantastic in a different way, if that makes sense. So I'm just loving it. I'll probably talk to you again when I'm done with it. It is the 3rd of November, so I'm pretty sure I talked to you yesterday, but just loving it, and I'm excited to finish it and then get to the second one once I've read all the other ones. So we will talk later. I'm gonna go back to screaming about how much I love James and Cordelia. Okay friends, I actually have some updates for you, but first we have some book mail. I don't usually do these sorts of things, but a couple of things came in all at once, so I thought it would be nice to do a little unboxing. So first up we have the Hello Lovely box, trope box pick for last month, October I think. Either October or November, I cannot remember. This is Shameless by Lexi Martin. This is what it looks like. Absolutely beautiful. I love this color combo. I actually am not familiar with this story at all. I haven't heard anything about it, but it's about Brady and Catherine. Brady is raising a baby on his own, new to town, or he's returning to town, and she knows secrets about his past. Again, I don't know much. It sounds like it's a small town romance, I'm guessing. And not really my thing. Don't super love kids in stories, but I'll probably give it a shot nonetheless. So next up we have Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I actually have the entirety of this series already in their original covers. This was the only one that I was missing. I'm not a big fan of the discreet covers, and so when I knew that she was going to discreet covers, I decided to get the regular original covers of all of her books because I don't really like any of her discreet covers. So I just got the first one. Like I said, I have all of the other ones, so I don't feel like this needs any introduction. Most people know what this is. And then the last one is, the last thing I have for you is the Fairy Loot adult box for October. So the theme is dystopia, which I don't super love. That's not like my favorite subgenre of fantasy. So let's see what the book is. We have Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. These are the sprayed edges. I love this cover. I think this is a gorgeous cover. This is what the back looks like. This is what the end pages look like. I know she wrote the Divergent series, and I also know she wrote Carve the Mark, which was not the best received because of some racism in it. So let's hope that this one is a little bit better. Let's hope she's, you know, I've never heard anybody say, like, give her opinion on what people say about it. So this is it. This is a dystopian, and it says, "What's right is right." Sonia knows this slogan. She lived by it for most of her life. For decades, everyone in the Seattle, Portland metropolis lived under it, as well as constant surveillance in the form of the Insight, an ocular implant that tracked every word and every action, rewarding or punishing by a rigid moral code set forth by the delegation. Then there was a revolution. The delegation fell. Its most valuable members were locked in the Aperture, a prison on the outskirts of the city, and everyone else, now free from the Insight's monitoring, went on with their lives. Sonia, former poster girl for the delegation, has been in prison for 10 years when an old enemy comes to her with a deal. Find a missing girl who has stolen from her parents by the old regime and earn her freedom. The path Sonia takes to find the child will lead her through an unfamiliar, crooked post-delegation world where she finds herself digging deeper into the past and her family's darkest secrets than she ever wanted to. With razor-sharp prose, Poster Girl is a haunting dystopian mystery that explores the expanding role of surveillance on society and its inescapable reality that we welcome all too easily. And that is the front. Like I said, this sort of story isn't really my thing, but I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll see, you know. We'll see. I really enjoy this edition. I don't know what the regular edition looks like, but I'll put it right here. So no complaints there. Okay, so I think since, I don't know if I updated you since I finished Chain of Gold, but I finished it yesterday, I think. It's still 5 stars like it was the 3 other times I've read this. This is just such a good, like, inclusion in the Shadowhunter world. Her writing just gets better and better. As I've said, every time I mention her on my channel, her writing just gets better and better, and I'm excited to go to the second one because this one has I've seen a lot more than I did the first couple of times that I read it. Picked up on a lot more, so I'm excited to go through and annotate that one. We close out this one with James and Cordelia being married, because James has fallen back under the influence of Grace, of the bracelet that he has on his wrist, that she's able to control him through, and he commits a crime at her behest, and Cordelia says that James was with her, basically ruining her, and so he offers to marry her for a year, and then they'll end up getting a divorce so that her reputation won't be ruined. And I mean, it's just heartbreaking. This is such a good book. Like, it's such a good first book in the series, and the characters are so well fleshed out. I love all of them, and I'm excited to see how she does in the third book. And I think the overarching plot of James's grandfather being the demon, and his domination plan is a good one. And there's just a lot of moving pieces in this story that just make it so interesting. So 5 stars. I am now a little over halfway through Cruel Prince. I am on page 195. So I am tabbing this one as well, and like I said previously, this is one of my all-time favorite YA fantasies. Jude is such a fascinating character because, like I said with Chain of Gold, I'm noticing a lot more than I did the first couple of times that I read this. I'm noticing a lot more Jude's vulnerabilities and her fears, and I think it's just making her so much more of a dynamic character. So in the beginning of this, Jude and her sister and her half-sister are taken by her adopted father after he murders their parents in the mortal world, and then he takes them to the fairy world, and that is where they are raised. And it's her twin, and her half-sister, who is also a half-fae. And we flash forward to when Jude is like 17-ish, and she is taking classes with the like gentry of the fairy world, and her father is the right hand, or the right hand to the current king of Elfhame, which is the city that's the main part of this, or the main area that this takes place in. And she is being bullied by the other kids in her school, and she has this dream to become a knight, so that she can earn her place. And that's like a massive thing with Jude's character, is like earning her place in fairyland. And I think it's such a fascinating stance for Holly Black to take with Jude's character, because in most fantasies like this where the main character has been displaced, we often see them struggling and desiring to get back to where they are from, and we don't really see that with Jude. Jude desperately wants to fit in. She desperately wants a place, and she wants to prove herself that she's not just some human, and she doesn't even really compare herself to human. She doesn't even really think of herself as mortal, or as a human. Like, she talks about them as very other, and there are scenes where they go into the mortal realm and she just feels very disconnected from them. And so we're seeing her battling this relationship between herself as a human and her desires to be included in the fairy world, and her battles with the fairies that are in the fairyland, because they don't really view her as an equal. They definitely view her as just a stupid human. And her sister, while she wants to have a place in fairyland, she doesn't quite want to earn it like Jude does. And their father, they have an interesting relationship with him, because obviously he's not their real father. He murdered their real parents, but he's like really the only parental love that they've ever felt. And so she has this dual desire to impress him, but also to prove him wrong and to be better than him, and to best him, and just to best the fairies all together. Like, the tagline for this is, if I can't beat them, I'll be better than them, or if I can't be like them, I'll be better than them, or something like that. So it's just so interesting, and Jude's character is so fascinating. So at this point, this halfway point, or a little over halfway point, Jude is now part of the Court of Shadows, which is a spy group for one of the soon-to-be kings. So the king of Elfhame has like 6 or 7 kids. Jude, the love interest being, Cardan, the love interest, being one of them, and the one that is supposed to take the throne isn't necessarily the oldest, but his name is Dane, and he has recruited Jude as a spy because she's a human, which means she can do a lot of things that other fae can't really do, and so she is doing things for him while like leading this double life. And then we also have her relationship with Cardan, which is a very antagonistic relationship, and they definitely fight each other constantly, and he's very cruel, and just in general he's not a very nice person, but we unravel that a little bit as the story goes on. And then she also has a blooming romantic relationship with this guy named Locke, who doesn't seem to be like 100% genuine with her. And then her relationship with her sisters. So she has obviously the twin, her name's Tyrion, I think is her name. And she wants to fall in love with a fairy and just kind of like exist, and that's how she wants to earn her place. And she's also being very secretive. She seems to have fallen in love, and she is kind of hiding all of that from Jude, and we're finding that she's not quite as innocent and soft as she appears to be, and she's hiding quite a bit from Jude, but Jude is also hiding a lot from her. And then their older sister, Vivi, is half fae, and she feels very she feels like she shouldn't be in fairy, in Elfhame. She doesn't feel like she should be a fae. She feels like her place is in a human world, and she has a girlfriend there and like a whole life that she wants to plan and be there. And so she's kind of on the outskirts of Jude's story in this book for sure. And you know, she comes in later on, but that's majority of what we're seeing is like Jude being a spy, her interacting with these group of people, these group of fae kids that bully her, and like her trying to be better than them. And like I said earlier, I think the largest thing that has shocked and pleased me as I've read this is just how dynamic Jude's character is, because I think a lot of the issue that people have when they first read this is not a lot goes on, and I definitely think it's more of like Jude establishing her place and figuring out what she's gonna do. Like, she's very young and she really does everything by the seat of her pants, but you can really feel the intention and the desire for more there. Well, I think she's a strong heroine and she's intelligent. She often gets herself into situations that she's not really equipped for, and I love that. So I'm going to probably finish this because it's not very long. Like, I have this much left, and then we'll come back and talk about my final feelings, and then we'll get into A Court of Thorns and Roses. So we'll talk later. Hi friends, I have some reading updates for you. It is the 5th or the 6th, I think. But yesterday I finished The Cruel Prince. This is what the tabbing looks like. I did end up giving this 4 stars like I did the first couple of times that I have read it. It's just so good for all the reasons that I've mentioned before in my previous clip, and I'm so excited to continue the series, and I'm just going to keep saying that with all of the books. that I'm rereading, I guess. And then I do want to start A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I'm out of tabs, so I'm gonna wait for those to come in before I start that. But I did get 20% of the way through A Daughter of No Worlds, I think is what this is called. So this is a fantasy romance, and I've heard it's very slow burn, and it's about a girl named Tisana, and in the beginning of the book she is a slave for this guy named, I can't remember what his name is, but she is working to buy herself, like buy her freedom. She ends up killing him, and she goes on the run, and she goes to the Order, and the Order is like this, it seems to be like this government entity that's split into two sections, and everybody can do magic, and it depends on the certain kind of magic that you do that puts you in a whatever Order faction. And she goes there. She has some sort of magic, but we don't quite know the full extent of it. All we know is that she can like make butterflies and turn them into glass, and she can do some sort of fire or something or other. And so she goes to the Order and says, I need to join the Order, and I need you to take me back to where I came from so that I can save all of the slaves and everything that were, you know, her friends and stuff, including one pretty close friend that she had. And so they are like, okay, well, in order for you to join the Order, you have to be an apprentice, and you have to be under somebody for, you have to train with someone for like 6 years, I think. And they don't have anybody to train her except this guy named Max. And so she goes to him, and we get the idea that he is no longer in the Order, or he can't escape the Order, but he no longer wishes to like be involved in the things that the Order does. And so he's sort of forced to become her teacher. And within this first 100 pages, he at first doesn't really have any interest in training her, and he kind of ignores her presence. And then she finally breaks down and yells at him that, you know, she's doing this to free people, and that people need her to get through this and become an Order member so that she can save them from enslavement. And where I left off, they have had some training sequences, and she's like, her powers are getting better. This is definitely, like, the first 100 pages were definitely very quick, very fast moving, and there wasn't really a lot of establishment of the world. So I'm hoping that the story will slow down and we'll understand the world a little bit more, because I'm not really understanding the different like races of people, what the Order is, how your magic shows up. Like, I'm not understanding really any of that, and like what the magic system is and how everything's broken down. So I'm hoping that we'll see that slow down and be able to learn a little bit more. But those are really the reading updates that I have for you, so we will talk again later. Okay friends, this morning I finished Notes on an Execution, and I decided to give it 5 stars. I'm very surprised with this rating, because like, it's really good, really good, but I'm not emotionally invested in it. But I think that it's like objectively a perfect book. Like, you could not have done anything better with it, and I'm just shocked by how well the author executed it. I mentioned it in a previous clip that they managed to keep all opinions out and like let you take in the facts and do with them what you will, and I just think it was very, very well done. If you are interested in stories like this at all, I would definitely recommend. There's some things that I think are worth mentioning. So in the Goodreads, like in the summary for the book, the last line I think perfectly exemplifies the book. But there's like a couple of comments that they make throughout, one of them being, there's plenty of men who want to hurt women. Ansel is just special because he actually did it, which is just like, it perfectly sums up the obsession with true crime. And it says, Notes on an Execution presents a chilling portrait of womanhood as it simultaneously unravels the familiar narrative of the American serial killer, interrogating our system of justice and our cultural obsession with crime stories, asking readers to consider the false promise of looking for meaning in the psyches of violent men, which I think is just perfect. Doesn't sum up the book anything, like there's nothing else that could sum up the book better than that. So then I immediately started the Paris apartment, and I am 35% of the way through. So this is a mystery, and it's about a woman who goes to stay with her brother at his apartment in Paris, and when she gets there, he's not there, and she has to break into the apartment. When she breaks in, the cat is covered in blood, and she later discovers that the apartment has been like scrubbed down with bleach, and so she's kind of just trying to figure out where he is, what happened to him. It's a missing person story. At this point we don't have a body, so it's not like a murder mystery or anything, but so she is just going through investigating, and we're getting points of view of people that live in the apartment and a bunch of people that could possibly have a reason to kill him. It's pretty good. I enjoy Lucy Foley's writing. I think she just like gets mystery stories very well. She just understands how to execute them, and I'm enjoying this one. And then I said I was 250 through when I talked to you yesterday, but I was actually a little bit under that. So now I am 240 through House of Earth and Blood, and I'm enjoying it. Not any more than I did last time I read it. It's kind of just a well-ish written and executed murder mystery set in like an urban fantasy setting. That's kind of like the best way I can describe it. I don't really like Bryce. I do think she had a better romantic connection with Connor, who was the love interest that dies with Danica in the beginning of the book. And I think Hunt's kind of boring. I think the large issue that I have with Hunt is like, we're led to believe that he's like the bringer of death or some shit, whatever his name is, something to do with death. And we just don't really see that. Like, we see it in the beginning, but once him and Bryce sort of like get together, he just becomes like this docile guy that just like chills and does whatever. And like, I get that she's trying to go for a different love interest than what we've seen previously. Like, she's trying to get away from that alpha hole hero that's just like overprotective and stuff, and just going for like a really chill guy. But you can't tell me that he's like the bringer of death but also have him be like a puppy dog. So his character just isn't very believable with what everybody else in the story seems to think he is like. But as far as like the mystery goes, and now that I have the mystery and the world building, now that I have read the second one, I definitely see strings connecting the two, like the like strings and foreshadowing connecting what happens in the second one. So I mean, she's good at connecting her worlds. I just think she needs a better editor. I think because she is so big and everybody will always read whatever she puts out, people just don't really, like, her editors just don't really care to edit her stuff and like contain her. So she puts out these like 800-page monstrosities that are just not very well executed in some ways, and they're just like, yeah, just people will buy it regardless, which, like, sure, that's true, but also, like, we could have used some better world building. And like, you look at other epic fantasy stories, this is in no way an epic fantasy, but if you look at epic fantasy stories like Brandon Sanderson and things like that, they're slow, they're long, and there is a lot of world building, but it just feels different. And I don't know, like, the best way to describe that. I think she just doesn't know how to set up her world. She's new to, like, fantasy, adult fantasy, and she doesn't know how to flesh it out and make it feel real. She does a decent job. Like I said, I think she does good in an urban fantasy setting because it does feel a little bit more comfortable, and you can kind of fill in some of the gaps where, like, they have cell phones, they have, you know, take selfies, they have Instagram, like, all that kind of stuff. So it's easier for our minds to kind of, like, bridge everything together. But a little bit of the nuances of the story, of the backstory, of how the world came together, is just too packed all together without any real, like, consideration, I guess, is the best way to describe it. But I'm not saying anything that's, like, new. I've said these things about this book before every time I've read it, and other people have said these things, so I'm sure you guys are just tired of hearing about how info dumpy this is, because everybody kind of has a consensus about that. So I am going to continue reading this. My mom is coming over later for a couple hours, so I don't know how much reading I'm going to get done this afternoon, but I do need to finish the Night Circus through the week. So this Crescent City will kind of be put on the back burner. I just don't want to read the Night Circus while I'm at work, because I just want to be in it, you know. But Crescent City and the Paris apartment will be priorities, because I have quite a busy reading schedule ahead of me for the weekend, which you guys will see in another video. But yeah, that's the update, and as I say at the end of every clip, we will talk later. Okay, friends, I don't have too many updates for you since the last time we spoke. I've finished one book. I guess technically I finished two books. I did finish Crescent City, but I don't really have too much to say about it. I was just kind of getting bored. Like, honestly, I was getting bored of my rereads halfway through ACOTAR, if I had to be completely honest. So going into Crescent City, I was just kind of like, meh. But I was, like, pushing myself because I do enjoy that series. But, like, I was just kind of a little bit over it. But I did end up reading and finishing Book Lovers, which is, I want to say, this author's newest release, I think, this year. And I didn't enjoy this. I ended up giving it 2 stars. This is about Nora and Charlie, and in the beginning of the book, Nora is a literary agent, and Charlie is an editor, and she sends Charlie a book of one of her, you know, clients, for him to pick up. And they have a very bad first impression, and so she ends up, like, the book that she was trying to sell him ends up becoming very popular. And we skip forward, I think, a couple of months maybe, and her sister decides that they're going to go on vacation at the town that the book that he passed over was located, because he didn't like the town. He wasn't interested in the setting and all that, so he passed on it, and then they end up going and staying there, and she realizes that he lives there, and they sort of start a relationship. I wouldn't necessarily say, like, it's that antagonistic. They have some, like, banter, but it doesn't really give enemies vibes. The reason there was a lot of things that didn't work for me with this. I started out really enjoying it. I think about the 25% mark, I was like, yeah, I'm not really seeing, like, where people are going with this. The banter between the hero and the heroine was great. And then the story went on, and it just got progressively worse. So there's 2 glaring issues with this, and first up is Nora, the heroine. She is incredibly annoying. She is sort of characterized as, like, an ice queen. She doesn't really let anybody get close to her, and she's like ruthless, which is all well and great, but the issue with Nora was her relationship with her sister. Her sister has 3 children, she's married, is well into adulthood at this point, and Nora refuses to accept that and actively like tries to manipulate her sister's life and like gives up jobs for her and like just doesn't treat her like she's an adult, and it's incredibly irritating. Like, it's the main conflict of the book. Like, this is a romance and it's not even, that's not even the conflict. Just her relationship with her sister, and it irritated the living fuck out of me. Every conflict she had, every like internal conflict she had was about her sister. And then in addition to that, Charlie was written to be like the perfect man for her. They had no issues, they had no gripes, they were literally the exact same person, same character. She just made Charlie a dude and then made them have romantic feelings for each other. There was nothing, no opposition, no care, like down to their past being exactly the same, family structure exactly the same fears and insecurities, like everything was exactly the same. He was written as a character to be a love interest to her, which is very disappointing, because this is supposed to be a romance as far as I'm concerned. I believe that the publisher and everybody, the author, considers this a romance, and it just was not there. It just didn't feel good. It just didn't feel like their banter, I will admit, felt great, but because I was so bogged down with the fact that Charlie was not his own person and this relationship with her sister, by the time we actually had some sort of satisfying resolution of their tension back and forth, I was like, I was done. I was done with the book. So this was very disappointing for me, especially because I just read People We Meet on Vacation a couple of months ago and I really enjoyed it. Like, it was very close to a 5-star for me. And I didn't like Beach Read. Beach Read, I think, was it also a 2 for me, so this was a 2 for me. I'll probably continue to pick up her books in the future, just because I do think she writes character chemistry very well, but if she's going to lead more into like literary fiction, women's fiction, that's just not really my vibe. I just don't really enjoy stories like that. So if that's where she's going, I probably won't pick up more, but if she's gonna lean more into romance, then I will. I'll just listen for the coming, like, I'll just listen to reviews of romance readers who kind of give their opinions on how the new book feels. I'm pretty sure we already have a cover and title reveal for it, and I think it's supposed to come out early in 2023, so yeah, I'm just gonna listen out for reviews and see how people feel, but overall, pretty disappointing, and I am sad because, like I said in the beginning, I was very into it, and now it just left me, I just didn't feel great about it. So then I also got, I think I'm 70% of the way through A Daughter of No Worlds, and I think the issue that I'm having with this book is that I have taken too many steps away from it, and the issues that I was having when I was reading it consistently was that the world was not very well explained, and now that I'm kind of inconsistently reading it, I'm having trouble getting into it and understanding the world. I don't think anything was very well explained to us. I do like the way that the plot is going, and I'm interested to see how it's going to go. And it could be a series that I continue if it wraps up in a way that I enjoy, but I think I just kind of fucked myself by taking time away from it. I should have just like read it all the way through, or at least picked it up every day and tried to like get through it without giving such, because it's been a good couple of days since I read it, so when I tried to pick it up earlier today, I wasn't lost, like everything made sense, but it just made the fact that the world is not very well explained very obvious, or more obvious rather. But I am trying to knock that book out, and I have some plans for some other things that I want to pick up this month, but I'm unclear if I'm going to put it in this video or do their own videos. So I'll probably talk to you again when I have gotten through something. I do have some library books checked out, some audiobooks that I want to get to. Specifically, The Woman in Cabin 10 and Reckless Girls. I have heard very good things about these as mysteries, just like bog standard mysteries, not thrillers or anything like that. And I also want to get to Ring Shout, which I think is like an alt reality, something to do with KKK. So those are kind of like, I also have The Appeal, which I have heard mediocre things about. So those are kind of like what I'm eyeballing if I don't end up including those other 2 books that I was mentioning in this video. So I'm gonna update you when I've read something and have thoughts.